They say in the midst of all this crisis and all these bailouts, trillions of dollars, they come up and say, oh, this is an opportune time for the federal government to take over medical care. So we're going to take over the medical care. But it's miraculous. You know, they take a program that's going to cost at the minimum $2 or $3 trillion and tell you it's going to cost under $1 trillion, and we know it always costs more. But they're miracle workers. What they're going to say is we're going to have this program, we're going to give more quality care to everybody, we're not going to shortchange any corporations, the insurance companies are going to have more customers, the drug companies are going to get paid more bills, and not only that, but at the end, not only will the budget get balanced, we are going to have a profit by having an introduction of this program. Now, I would say they deserve no credibility from anybody in this country, and guess what? Somebody's already done a poll on this, and it shows that we're now at 80%. 80%. Don't believe a word of what they're being told. But the odds are slim to none that all this reform talk about medical care is going to help at all. It's not. Because the country, not by an 80% majority, believe this. Unfortunately, probably 80% believe that people have a right to be taken care of, whether it's medical needs or housing needs or jobs or food stamps or whatever. And that's not the case. In a free society, you have a right to your life, you have a right to your liberty, and you ought to have a right to keep what you earn. Then if you did, you'd probably be able to pay for all your bills and take care of all our problems. But unfortunately, that isn't the case. So what will they do to cut? Are we going to change that? Hopefully we can. It'll be a tough battle when we have economic and political chaos, but that's a basic principle. You know, micromanaging the medical industry and the educational industry and all these things, that isn't going to work. This is why I take the position, I've been told by some that if you have a program and it's slightly better than bad, you should vote for it. Like if it's 60% good and 40% bad, oh, that's good, vote for it. Yeah, give up 40% of your freedom at a time. You know, eventually you don't have any left if you do it that way. But the other bad part about that is if you concede 1% of a bad program, you've considered 100% of the principle, and that's where they get us. It's sort of like saying, well, you know, we're having trouble paying our bills, so why don't we have this income tax? We're just going to charge 1% of the people who make a certain amount of money. Well, lo and behold, you know, everybody gets stuck with an income tax that's huge. So we don't want to give in and compromise our principles. We have to stick to them. If freedom works, we stick to it. But to get our fiscal house in order, we would have to have a new idea about what the responsibilities of the government is. And at home, it should be to protect our liberties and not much else. That should be the purpose of all political action, protecting individual liberty. But should we have a national defense? Yeah, I'd say yes. That's a very important function. It was very precise in the Constitution that the states wouldn't be the defender of the nation. But no place in the Constitution does it say that we should borrow money from China to police the world and aggravate everybody and stir up trouble for us. And this is what we have done. We have a foreign policy that is not only bankrupting us, it has endangered us. I am convinced that all that we do overseas is a greater danger to us. Since we're having these financial problems, and they're serious, and we want to balance the budget, not in 5 or 10 years, and we need to do something right now, it seems like we should be able to come together as a people to cut the spending out of overseas. Why not have a strong national defense and start bringing the troops home that we have spread around the world since World War II? We could save hundreds of billions of dollars. We don't need to be in Japan. We don't need to be in Korea. We don't need to be in Europe. We don't need to be in the Middle East. We can just take care of ourselves, and we'd all be better off for it. You know, there were a lot of promises made in the campaign by Obama that weren't all that bad. You know, he was going to come home from Iraq, and he was going to reform some of the military tribunals and a few things like that, but not much has happened. Now, today he did make an announcement. It's a minor announcement because he's qualified it, and that is he said that he would not put these anti-ballistic missiles on the borders surrounding the Soviet Union. And I think that is good. There's no reason why we have to have anti-ballistic missiles. Now, we wouldn't dare say it has anything to do with the Russians, I should have said. With the Russians, it has to do with the Iranians. Now, the Iranians don't have an intercontinental ballistic missile, and they don't have a nuclear weapon, but it's the Iranians that might launch these missiles. And they're stirring up all kinds of fuss over the Iranians. Now, I just can't quite understand that. I'm not defending their government. There's a lot of bad governments around the world, but my responsibility is to try to make our government better so they want to follow what we do. Now, I don't fear the Iranians. They probably would like to have a nuclear weapon, but there's a lot of nuclear weapons around. I guess I've been conditioned by the fact that I was called to duty in the 60s, and the Soviets were pretty concerned about what was going on in the West, and they had 30,000 of these nuclear weapons, and we stood them down. Why do we concentrate on building fear on a third world nation, the Iranians, who we claim are about to attack us? Do you know the Iranians can't even make gasoline? They don't have any gasoline. They have to import every drop. But in order to stir up the trouble and the animosity with that country, so that we can justify some type of an attack on them, what we're proposing now, and it's in the form of legislation, and it may come up pretty soon. And the legislation say that we are going to prevent all our allies, the whole world, from sending any gasoline, refined oil products to Iran. And the reason goes like this, that we don't like the Iranian government, and there are dissidents over there, and we like to get the Ayatollahs out of there. The whole trouble is we already spend hundreds of millions of dollars every year with our CIA involvement in programs over there trying to undermine the government, and that usually doesn't work. That usually causes people to come together rather than encouraging the dissidents. But the logic about the boycott on the gasoline is this. They said, if we keep the people from getting gasoline, they're going to get really angry, and they're going to throw out the Ayatollahs. I said, I don't think so. I think they're just going to get angry at us because they know we're involved over there. But it just, to me, is symbolic of the nonsense that we do and this built-up fear. I think it's all part of this notion of continuing the military-industrial complex. But believe me, it'll come to an end, too. Not because anybody's going to listen to my speeches in Washington as much as the fact that they're going to run out of money and they won't be able to afford it, and then we'll have to bring our troops home. You know, also there's a lot of activity going on in Afghanistan, and the president now is asking for more troops. He's not winding the war down over there. He's building it up. There were 135,000 troops when he went into office. There's 131,000 right now. But he's put in many, many thousands of contractors making more money than the military personnel made. And today they announced they will send 1,000 more military troops back to Iraq. So that war is not winding down. We have already, part of that so-called surge, we already armed how we pacified, for a while, pacified the Sunnis. We gave them weapons, tons of weapons. First, when we invaded them, we took all their weapons away and disrupted the whole country that way. Then we found out that wasn't good. That made them upset, and they started killing us. So now we went back in, and now we're giving all these weapons. So the Sunnis have a lot of weapons over there.